It looks like Donald Trump is taking his threatened takeover of the media seriously. First, take a look at his comment from yesterday.
I see others. I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was, way up. Way up, an easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them, I love them, and they understand there's no reason to go there.
That he planned on suing Ann Seltzer and the Des Moines Register for the apparent crime of releasing a poll that cast him in a negative light, albeit inaccurately. Well, he made good on that promise, officially suing Ann Seltzer and the Des Moines Register in Iowa State Court, with the lawsuit reading that it, quote, seeks accountability for brazen election interference committed by the defendants in favor of now defeated former Democratic candidate Kamala Harris through use of a leaked and manipulated Des Moines Register Iowa poll conducted by Ann Seltzer and published by Des Moines Register and Gannett in the Des Moines Register on November 2nd, 2024. Seltzer, who had prided herself on a mainstream reputation for accuracy despite several far less publicized egregious polling misses in favor of Democrats, would have the public believe it was merely a coincidence that one of the worst polling misses of her career came just days before the most consequential election in memory was leaked and happened to go against the Republican candidate. The Harris poll was no miss, but rather an attempt to influence the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. Defendants and their cohorts in the Democrat Party hoped that the Harris poll would create a false narrative of inevitability for Harris in the final week of the 2024 presidential election. Instead, the November 5th election was a monumental victory for President Trump in both the Electoral College and the popular vote, an overwhelming mandate for his America First principles, and the consignment of the radical socialist agenda to the dustbin of history. And the lawsuit goes on, insisting that Ann Seltzer was part of some vast conspiracy to undermine Donald Trump's chances in Iowa by releasing a poll that was purposefully inaccurate. Of course, what the lawsuit fails to do is actually prove any of it. I read through the whole thing. Suffice it to say that it reads similarly to Trump's paranoid screeds, and it will very likely be laughed out of court. It's also worth noting that Ann Seltzer resigned after the polling miss, because clearly her intent was to miss so badly that it would result in her own career ending. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And look, of course the lawsuit is a joke, and of course there is zero proof that Seltzer sacrificed her own storied career in some effort to swing the very crucial swing state of Iowa. But the fact is that this isn't really about Ann Seltzer. It is about Donald Trump flexing his muscles over media figures who are critical of him in an effort to chill that very kind of critical coverage or unfavorable polling anytime in the future. He wants to make it so that no one will be not afraid to release a poll showing him behind, lest they want to invite a lawsuit of their own. And the great irony of this is that it'll skew polls in his favor and against the Democrats moving forward if he's successful, thereby doing the same thing to the left that he's accusing the media of doing to him, something that he calls suppression polling. In other words, suppression polling is so bad, according to Trump, that these people deserve to be sued for some untold amount of money, likely millions of dollars, and yet when it inevitably happens to the left, well, that's totally fine. You see, suppression polling is illegal when it happens to Trump, but when it happens to Democrats, that's A-okay. Got it. And it's not just Ann Seltzer. Trump is now also demanding that a judge expedite his case against Bob Woodward, who he's suing for $49 million, along with the publisher Simon & Schuster, regarding Donald Trump's 19 interviews that he sat for Bob Woodward's book, Rage. The judge has denied Trump's request to expedite the suit, but the point remains. Donald Trump feels wholly emboldened to pursue his retaliatory agenda against the media. And the sad irony of all of this, Trump being emboldened to take on the media is largely the result of the media itself. Take the situation with ABC News from just this past weekend. Trump filed a defamation lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos and ABC for comments that the anchor made, specifically saying that a jury found that Donald Trump had raped E. Jean Carroll. That's slightly off. In actuality, the jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse. But the judge in this case, Lewis Kaplan, said, quote, "The finding that Ms. Carroll failed to prove that she was raped within the meaning of New York penal law does not mean that she failed to prove that Mr. Trump raped her, as many people commonly understand the word rape." Adding, "Indeed, as the evidence at trial recounted below makes clear, the jury found that Mr. Trump in fact did exactly that." In other words, not a stretch for George Stephanopoulos to claim that Donald Trump was an adjudicated rapist when the judge effectively came out and said exactly that. Certainly not up to the bar of actual malice, which is the standard for these defamation lawsuits, meaning that Stephanopoulos knew the statement was false or that he acted with reckless regard for the truth, and certainly not up to the bar of Donald Trump being able to prove that Stephanopoulos' comments caused him damages, reputational harm, and financial hardship. All thresholds that do need to be met in a successful defamation case. But still, ABC News decided to pay $15 million anyway as part of a settlement. Why? Well, most likely because they felt it was easier to obey in advance than to fight the president-elect. In other words, not only do they get in his good graces with a cool $15 million donation, certainly more than Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or any of those people, but they get some cover too. They get to claim that the reason that they're being forced to pay is because of the lawsuit, when in reality, they rolled over without putting up anything even close to a fight in this lawsuit. This is what it looks like when the media obeys in advance. It's not about protecting democracy. It is about protecting their own access. By giving Trump permission to claim victory in this lawsuit, ABC News has opened the floodgates for a newly emboldened Trump to wage war against everyone in the media that he doesn't like. They have made the entire media ecosystem less safe and ushered us one step closer to the very brand of a liberal democracy that Donald Trump has threatened for so long. This is what it looks like when a media outlet puts its own interests above the very democracy that they purport to want to protect. And they're only the latest in a long line of media outlets to do exactly that. As I mentioned before, Jeff Bezos gave $1 million. Mark Zuckerberg did the same thing. Joe and Mika went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. CNN's made Trump mouthpiece and appendage Scott Jennings the face of the network. One by one, every outlet, every tech bro, they're all there bending the knee to Donald Trump to show their fealty to him. And look, I know that I spend a lot of time talking about the media, but I want to take this opportunity while people are opening to listen to criticism to reiterate what I've been saying for years and what I literally wrote a book about that was published this past summer. Legacy media is not on our team in the Democratic Party. They are not here to save us. They are not in the democracy business. CNN is in the CNN business. The Washington Post is in the Washington Post business. ABC is in the ABC business. These are corporate entities that are out there to make money for themselves and to serve their shareholders. And if that means they're going to sacrifice our democracy in service of just that much more access to a wannabe despot like Trump, then so be it. Clearly, the flashy slogans about protecting democracy are window dressing. With that said, if anything puts on full display the need for a strong progressive media ecosystem, it is the way that these outlets are bending over backwards to kowtow to Trump. I can say with certainty that that will never happen here. I'm not in the business of trying to gain access to Trump. I'm not in the business of selling out my values for Trump. I'm not in the business of putting anything over my pursuit of a stronger democracy. I hope that means that you'll support my work by subscribing to this channel, and I hope that means you'll support my work by subscribing to other independent media channels and other independent media creators on YouTube and across the digital media ecosystem. Because if legacy media insists on dropping the ball, we are more than willing to pick it up. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.